It's tax time again, and every year Aussies are leaving hundreds, potentially thousands of dollars in missed tax claims. This year, don't be one of them. In this video, I'm sharing 10 ways to maximize your Australian tax return this year. So what could this mean for you? Less taxes to pay and more money in your pocket. There have been a few changes over the past year, so make sure you watch right to the end to make sure last year's deductions still stand today. The average Aussie taxpayer claims $3,000 in deductions. So if you're paying tax and not making any at all, you won't want to miss this video. First off, working from home expenses. It's something that many of us do, and even better, it can even boost your tax return. To claim your work from home expenses, you must meet 3 criteria. First, you must actually be working, not just watching TV, wiggling your mouse. Second, you must have incurred additional costs as a result of working from home, like powering your laptop, turning on the aircon, that kind of thing. And third, you must keep a record of these costs. There are 2 methods to claiming work from home expenses, the fixed rate method and the actual cost method. Starting with the fixed rate method, in the 24-25 tax year, you can claim 70 cents for every hour worked from home. This is up from 67 cents last year. This 70 cents covers your mobile data, internet, home phone, electricity, gas, computer consumables like ink and paper, and any required stationery. Because you're claiming these costs here, you can't claim them elsewhere in your tax return. In addition to the 70 cents an hour, you can claim a separate deduction for depreciation on work-related assets, such as computers and furniture. Repairs and maintenance on those assets are claimable as well, as are cleaning costs if you have a dedicated home office. So that is the fixed rate method. The second option you have is the actual cost method. Under this method, you need to calculate the actual costs incurred while working from home. Under the fixed rate method, we took just 70 cents an hour. But under this method, we need to calculate individually every one of these costs to find their actual cost. Now, many expenses, such as power and internet, are split between both personal and work use. In such a case, you'll need to apportion your deduction on a fair and reasonable basis. This can get a bit tricky, so I've included a link down below to the ATO's website in the video description, which has a calculator and examples that you can follow. So we claim for the same things under both methods, but the fixed rate method is just an easier option for those hard to apportion costs. So calculate both ways and work out which one might work best for your situation. Under both methods for good measure, make sure to keep all of your records tidy. The ATO, for example, might ask for the total hours you worked from home in a year, how you calculated your claim, and any receipts, bills, or otherwise that prove an expense was incurred. The second way to maximize your tax return is to strategically optimize your capital gains. This is a bit more technical than the other items in this list. Capital gains is basically a tax you pay when you sell an asset for more than you bought it for. This includes most investment asset classes like shares, property, and even crypto. So you already paid tax on earning the money you use to invest, and the government takes their cut when you invest it intelligently. As always, the dealer wins. Fortunately for us, there are a few ways to reduce the bill. First, the period you own an investment matters. If you buy and sell within 12 months, you must pay a tax on the gain. If, however, you sold the investment more than 12 months after buying it, the taxable gain will be halved. For example, if you buy 100 shares at $100, you spent $10,000. If those shares increase in value by 50%, you now have $15,000 of shares. If you bought and sold within 12 months, you'd have to pay tax on the $5,000 gain. But if it was longer than 12 months, you'd only have to pay tax on a $2,500 gain. Secondly, another thing you can do around capital gains is what the Americans call tax loss harvesting. If we take the example from before, we can offset the capital gain with what's called a capital loss. When we bought our stocks, imagine we bought another 200 shares in another company for $50 a piece, adding up to $10,000 invested here as well. If the shares, instead of increasing 50%, they actually decline by 50% to $25, and we sell, we realize a $5,000 loss, a capital loss. We take the sum of our gains, in this case $5,000, and subtract the sum of our losses, the second $5,000, leaving us with a net taxable gain of $0. So tax loss harvesting allows us to reduce our capital gains tax bill. Calculating all of this is a pain. You need to maintain a spreadsheet, determine your cell allocation method, and if you work with multiple brokers, the complication only increases. Many Australians today use a tool called NVXA. It's a powerful Australian software that tracks your investments by absorbing your buy and sell trades directly from your broker, making it super straightforward to keep on top of things. Their tax reporting tools are market leading and super simple to use. And being Australian owned, they know the ATO rules inside and out, especially around calculating capital gains tax. Here I loaded a couple buy and sell trades for both CommBank and ANZ shares. ANZ was held for 6 months before being sold, while CommBank was held for a couple years. NVXA takes these trades from your broker's trade confirmations, and if we jump over into the capital gains tax screen, we can see it does all of the tax work for us. Because we sold the ANZ shares within 12 months, the total capital gain of $66 is taxed. If any shares were sold at a loss, they'd appear in the row below. Under the discount section, we sold our CBA shares after more than 12 months, so you can see NVXA has already calculated the 50% reduction in our realized capital gain. This cuts our tax bill by 50%, now coming in at $582. Again, if there were any capital losses to offset this, they'd appear in the row below. NVXA is also customizable, allowing you to change the cell configuration methods, which in a spreadsheet is a hassle. So as a result of not using NVXA, you might not fully optimize your capital gain strategy. They have a lot of interesting tools both to track your investments and generate tax reports. So make sure to use my link down below in the video description. Moving along, we have our third area to maximize your tax return through car-related expenses. If your car is used for work purposes, then you can claim some of its costs. Some of these expenses include the car's depreciation, its registration, insurance, maintenance, cleaning, repairs, and of course, fuel. Now, unless you meet these criteria here, don't be cheeky and try to claim costs for moving between home and work. Only claim expenses related to ordinary work-related trips, like moving between work sites, heading out to see a client, or anything else deemed work-related. Like we saw with work-from-home costs, there are two methods that apply here as well: the cents per kilometre method and the logbook method. The first allows you to claim 88 cents in the 24-25 tax year for every kilometre driven. Every year, you can use this method to claim up to 5,000 kilometres in your tax return. This flat rate covers all the car expenses we covered earlier, so you can't go and claim these twice. Simply calculate your annual kilometres, multiply by 88 cents, and that is your number. The second method requires you to maintain a logbook. This must be for a continuous period no less than 12 weeks. In the logbook, you must keep a record of all work-related trips and expenses using your car. This is actually useful under both methods, as having more data to prove your vehicle usage is only a good thing. I've included a link down below to a website that has a free template. Unlike the first method, this one allows you to claim expenses using their actual costs, but apportioned according to your personal and work use of the vehicle. These costs include registration, insurance, maintenance, repairs, fuel, and depreciation, which I'll also include a link to down below. If you don't own a car, you can even claim flights, train, bus, or taxi rides as long as it's for work purposes. So as before, there is a simple method and a harder one. Work out both and see which applies best to your situation. And remember, always keep accurate records in case the ATO comes knocking. Now, many of you might not be allowed to work from home. A doctor, for example, might have a tough time doing so. Fortunately, there might be some other costs you can claim. The first of these is tools and equipment used to perform your work. Here is a list of all the types of things that you can claim for, if you can connect them back to your employment. For example, a Sparky might not require a camera, and a chef might not require a guitar. Of course, if you're a photographer or a musician, you can probably make this claim. So if you think that you're eligible, make sure to keep your receipts and tie the assets purchased back to your line of work. Another claim might be clothing expenses. Now, I'm not talking about heading to Ralph Lauren to buy clothes for the office, but rather clothes that are essential to your line of work. The ATO specifically mentions the clothing must be occupation specific, such as a chef's checkered pants or a judge's robe. However, if it could be used for both personal and work use, like a swimming instructor's swimwear or a bartender's black trousers, then it cannot be claimed. Basically, it must be so ridiculous outside of the workplace, it couldn't possibly be used outside of work. In their words, non-conventional. Depending on your line of work, you might also be able to claim for protective clothing or a compulsory work uniform. So the ATO allows you to claim for its purchase, repair, and its cleaning. They even go as far as defining the laundry. It's $1 per load for only work clothes, or 50 cents a load if it includes a mix with personal artifacts. As always, keep your receipts. Moving along, our sixth potential deduction is for self-education, training, and conferences. Basically, if you identify a course, a conference, or something similar, its costs are deductible as long as it relates to the line of work you are currently in. It must maintain or improve your skills and knowledge you require for your current job, or it's likely to increase your income from your current employment activities. If it is not directly related to your current employment, you're unemployed, or you're using the course to change employment, then it is not deductible in your tax return. So if the education passes the criteria, you can claim your course or attendance fees, course expenses like textbooks and data, depreciation on assets like laptops used during the course, and other associated costs in some cases like transport, meals, and accommodation. On a similar note, our seventh deduction is for membership and accreditation fees. Teachers, for example, are often part of a union. Any fees incurred to be part of the union or to a bargaining agent for negotiations is claimable. The other side of this would include professional memberships and accreditations if they are required to work in your field. For example, sparkies and plumbers need to be certified in order to sign off on their work. There are some rules with these, so make sure to check the link in the video description for more details. If your line of work requires you to purchase software, this might be claimable as well. Here the ATO also mentions computers and laptops. So if you haven't already considered that as part of your work from home expenses, you can consider that here as well. If the purchase is incurred in order to perform your work duties and you record the costs and use of the items, then it's generally claimable. For example, if you're a video editor, you'd need a high-powered computer and various softwares to participate in your line of work. So this could be your eighth deduction. The ninth way to reduce your taxes in 2025 is by salary sacrificing super. By law, employers were required in the 24-25 tax year to contribute 11.5% of your pre-tax income into your super account. Through salary sacrificing, you can ask your employer to pay a portion towards your super, in addition to the 11.5% they're already paying in. Concessional contributions, or those paid from your pre-tax earnings, like a salary sacrifice, are taxed at just 15%. For many of you, that will be lower than your marginal tax rate. So not only will this grow your super account faster, but if we look at your overall tax bill, this could result in a decent tax savings. In the 24-25 tax year, you can make total concessional contributions of up to $30,000 a year, benefiting from the 15% rate. Just make sure here that you don't fall under Division 293 rules, where your income exceeds $250,000, as extra taxes may apply. Alongside your own contributions, doing so to a spouse's super account might give you further tax relief. If your partner earns less than $40,000 a year, you can contribute up to $3,000 of after-tax money to their super account. This will give you an 18% tax offset, equating to up to $540 a year. If you're one of the 90% of my viewers that hasn't yet subscribed, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below to see all of my future content. I create videos that empower Aussies and Kiwis to save more, earn more, and be more confident with their finances. Make sure to check out NVXA and their tax reports down below using my link in the video description. And check these videos out here to see the average income and net worth of your average Aussie. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to catching you on the next one. Cheers.